Welcome back to Risky Business, a show about making better decisions. I'm Maria Konnikova.
And I'm Nate Silver.
Nate, today is going to be a fun show. You're taping from Tokyo. I'm taping from New York. So from opposite sides of the world, we'll be talking about our predictions for 2025 on a whole number of things, whole bunch of topics from, economics and politics to pop culture, lots of things in between, sports, fashion choices. I think you'll enjoy this one.
Let's get going. Happy 2025, everybody.
Happy 2025.
It's a quarter effing century. It's a big
I know, right?
Yeah.
That's
God, what were you doing on New Year's 2000?
New Year's 2000. Oh my God. I was still in high school. I was.
God.
I was in high school. So I was with my family. Where were you 25 years ago?
I was on a beach in Key West, Florida.
Nice.
Doing various substances that may or may not have been legal in the state of Florida, and we'll leave it at that.
Sounds good. I think you're good on the statute of limitations.
Okay.
All right. So let's get into it. So we have a bunch of different topics ranging from, crypto to pop culture. Do you want to start it off with kind of one of the big topics that we've talked about on the show multiple times, which is Bitcoin? What do you think, Nate, will be the highest price that Bitcoin will reach this year, and what do you think will be the lowest price Bitcoin will reach? If you want, I can start us off too.
I mean, so we're looking at Polymarket, where I'm an advisor, says that the over-under mark is roughly 120K by March 31st.
March 31st. That's not the end of the year.
And 80K on the lowest end by March 31st. So, look, I mean, if you had to, this is a really hard question, actually.
It is a really hard question, yeah.
Let me say the high is 140 is my over-under, and the low is 60, right?
Okay.
I'm just doubling Polymarket. I trust that people on Polymarket, a lot of crypto-friendly types there, I trust that the market is smarter than I am, and I'm just doubling the range they have for March 31st through the end of the year.
Okay, that's pretty smart. I am going to go higher than you. I am going to say 180 high for 2025. So I think that there are a lot of people, a lot of smart crypto people who think it will hit 200 and might even go over 200. I don't think it will go that high, but I'm going to be bullish and I'm going to say 180. And on the low side, I'm not sure. I will say 70. I will say 70 as the low.
So are you buying? I mean, that sounds pretty asymmetric, where you should be buying Bitcoin. Are you buying Bitcoin?
I am not currently buying Bitcoin, but I think that Bitcoin is actually something that potentially I should start buying, especially as Donald Trump comes into office. We know that he hasn't necessarily delivered on, things that he's promised in the past, but so far there are positive signs that he is going to be pretty pro-crypto. And if all of those things come to pass, normally the way that you look at markets is, smart people have already priced this in, right? So the price of Bitcoin already reflects people being optimistic about Donald Trump and what he's going to do and his policies. But I think that with crypto, it doesn't necessarily work that way, and the market doesn't price things in quite the same way as the stock market. I would say that it's less efficient in some ways and much more volatile, right? You can see in the cryptocurrency world, you can see something go up 500%, right? That just does not happen on the regular stock market. So I would say that there's the upside is asymmetric right now.
See, I might argue that crypto is almost by definition very vibes-based, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it may over-anticipate. It may overly be pricing it in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's also very possible.
And in general, I wonder if there's a little bit of irrational exuberance. I mean, being president is hard, right? He's inheriting a pretty unhappy electorate. He will be surrounded by a mix of people, some of whom are competent, many of whom aren't. He has very narrow majority in the House, right? He's old. He and Elon will probably have a falling out at some point, no longer be BFFs. I don't know. I think there's kind of I think the average Trump new convert enthusiast, crypto enthusiast is a little high on fumes right now. And I remember, kind of whenever there's a new president, when there's a switch of parties, right? Like people don't understand how difficult it starts to look 3 to 6 months in, right? You do your 100 days stuff, although it's harder now than it used to be. But Trump will do some executive orders. We'll talk about that in a bit. And then, I don't know. I think there's a short-term bear case on Trump, I think, is probably worthwhile. And how that translates into crypto is not linear entirely. But, it's hard to be president, is all I'm saying.
I totally agree with that. But because we're looking at by the, this year in total, right? We're not actually doing a prediction of where it's going to be next month or where it's going to end up. We're just saying what is the high for 2025? And I actually think that the irrational exuberance will get us to that high at some point, and then it might crash right precipitously. And the reason I'm not buying Bitcoin, by the way, is that I'm not confident enough in my ability to predict, when those crashes will come and when those changes in sentiment will come. But I do think we're going to see something like that. So I think that there's a lot of things to be said for caution, but also for, let's put some of those irrationally exuberant predictions in there. Let's switch gears a little bit, sort of, because this is related to Trump. So how about a prediction about Trump's, we've talked about the cabinet, right, and about his nominees. Do you have a prediction for how many cabinet nominees, and this is starting now, so Gates does not count, will either be rejected or withdraw?
Gates.
Yeah, Gates does not count because that has already happened.
Again,
let's
starting now. Let's benchmark it with Polymarket. Polymarket says Pete Hegseth has an 86% chance of being confirmed. Tulsi Gabbard, 75%. Kash Patel, 89%. RFK Jr., 85%. And then there are some other people that probably nobody cares about, right? So let me do math. 15, 25, 50, 60, and then the little pocket change we get. So Polymarket says that the best bet is probably 1 or 0. I'll go with 0. I think that we saw the scalp with Matt Gaetz, right? I think if you're going to have somebody ousted, that it would have happened sooner in this kind of because the further you go, the more embarrassing it is to Trump, and most Republicans in the Senate actually don't want to embarrass Trump. And so, the market says that Gabbard is the most likely wild card, but I think they've mostly survived. I don't think they've survived the vetting, making them look good, right? But there's no objective standard here, right? It's, do you have 50 votes in the Senate? And I think they probably survived it in a way Matt Gaetz didn't. So I'll go with 0. I'll go. He'll bet 1,000 the rest of the way.
I actually agree with you. I was going to say 0. I don't think that anyone's going to withdraw, and I don't think anyone is going to be rejected. I think we're going to see the full slate confirmed. I think that people will toe party lines, and I think that we're going to see everyone sail through. I don't even think it's going to be particularly close.
Next question. You were alluding to this,
Yeah.
Maria. Number of press secretaries in 2025.
I am going to say that in 2025, he is going to have 2. That's going to be my prediction.
Maria, we're agreeing too much here. I'm 2 seems like the rational modal number. It's a fucking hard job.
It is.
I don't know. I kind of feel like press secretaries are the one people that should be allowed to lie. You know what I mean? Because you can't really do the job without lying.
Well, I think there's a difference between lying and spinning. And there is, so I'm not trying to play semantics here, right? So there's lying where you're just flat out saying something that is not true. And then there are misrepresentations, which in some ways is worse, right? Because it's harder to be you lied. You can be well, no, if you parse this sentence semantically, I did not lie. And I think that that's more what press secretaries do. They're more spin doctory than they are.
It's like when some poker players will not actually lie about the contents of their hand, right? you'll be like, do you have pocket kings? And they'll be like, well, it's a big pair or something. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
I just lie about the contents of my hand all the fucking time in poker. It's like allowed.
It is allowed. It is allowed.
Did you fold a big hand there? No,
I don't do it, but it is absolutely allowed, and I totally don't blame you for doing it. The funniest thing, by the way, can we just do like a poker aside, is when people lie about their hand on stream, on televised stream, when their cards are shown, and it will become very, very clear that they're lying. Scott Seaver does this all the time, and he'll just like with a straight face, like be like, fold, I've got it, or like he'll or just like completely lie what hand he has, and like you can see he's lying, and he just doesn't care. So I think that is definitely very accepted. I am more of the, I don't like telling people what I had, and I'll if they don't take that for an answer, I'll just say yes, right? So they'll be like, did you have kings? Yes. Did you have queens? Yes. Did you have jacks? Yes. Did you have ace king? Yes. Like, I will, and if you start asking me more than one hand, you will realize that I'm just saying yes to everything. So I'll just do something like that, which will normally shut people up. But I don't like to tell people what I have. As we've talked about before on the show, and I think this is an important point outside of poker, information equals power. Do not give people information when you don't have to, right? Have them know as little as possible about your intentions, how you play, everything else. So yeah, two press secretaries. First ones never hold on. I mean, Trump just goes through press secretaries like none other. I wouldn't even be surprised to see 3, but I think 2 is the right prediction. All right. We've got one more. We have more than one. Trump has said he will declare a national emergency on his first day in office to begin mass deportations. Do you think he will do this on January 20th? Is there going to be a national emergency declaration?
Again, there is a market to calibrate to. Polymarket says 80% chance on day one he does issue the executive action.
Really? That seems high.
Well, look, I mean, one of the things you can say Trump had a mandate to be elected on was immigration, right? Mm-hmm. And he clearly cares a lot about it. I mean, it's kind of core to his brand. I think it's within the purview of the White House to issue executive action. So I'm going to say yes, right? I have no reason to like this is kind of what you promised. This is what he promised to do. If you voted for Trump, this is what you were supposed to get, and I think he's going to do it.
I mean, I think you're probably right, but I'm just going to give a completely, so this is the opposite of what we do here on Risky Business, which is use our rational minds to do predictions. I'm just going to say he won't do it because I don't want him to. That is not how you make decisions. So the rational answer is yes, I think there will be a national emergency. My emotional answer is I hope there isn't, and I hope that there are no mass deportations. But you're absolutely right that this is something that people did vote for.
The reason why I think you want to take the yes bet is like, if he, for whatever reason, is influenced by, Silicon Valley doesn't care as much about the illegal immigration, but if he's influenced to like take a softer line, I think he would still issue an executive order of some kind. It would have fewer teeth, or they wouldn't fight for it as much in the courts, or right. Like I think he kind of has to like do this to kind of maintain face. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What if he gets in and he's like, it's all long con. I've been a Democrat the whole time, including the first term. I don't know what voice that was.
That was not Trump. I'm not sure who that was.
Okay.
Adam Sandler?
I know. That was embarrassing. Most embarrassing moment. Let's move on to the next question.
Wait. All right, go ahead. Let's do it.
Will Elon Musk become the world's first trillionaire in 2025? His current net worth, according to Bloomberg, is $426 billion with a B dollars.
I say no. I say he will not become a trillionaire in 2025. And I say this because Tesla has had disappointing sales this year. I realize that that's only one small part of his net worth, but it's an important one. And I also think that there's going to be some fallout with his association with Trump, including a fallout with Trump at some point, because I don't know of anyone like any high profile marriage that Trump has had that has lasted, obviously including his actual marriages. But what I mean right now, marriage with any kind of close political confidant, right? He's broken up with all of them. He elevates advisors. He's like, they're BFFs. They're really close. And then always there's, I don't know if it's ego clashing or what it is, but there's always a falling out. And I think that that's going to hurt Elon. And I think that's going to happen in 2025. So I don't think he's going to become poor, but I definitely do not see him becoming a trillionaire. There's also the AI component. And, I think it does matter whether you're bullish or bearish on the financial prospects of AI. And I don't think they're going to figure out their cash flow finances, how to actually make money in the coming year. What do you think, Nate?
So if someone else becomes a billionaire, a trillionaire before Elon, you also lose this bet. Is that correct?
Yes, because he's the first trillionaire.
Okay. I mean, yeah, look, the long-term average for super rich guys is that they increase their net worth by probably around 20% per year, which is very, very good relative to how most Americans do. But take 450, whatever it is now, and add 20%, and you're not that close. There's a little bit of a thing before about, like, to the extent that, like, assets that Elon owns have been priced up, that's kind of priced in to some extent already. I tend to agree that, like, I mean, you see these periodic reports that Trump is like, Elon's getting a little carried away here. And yeah, I think this is it's not impossible to imagine, but I'd say, like, I think there's maybe a 1 in 5 chance, and then tweak that 20% down to like 18 because every now and then someone else gets there first. Like in the AI scenario where this is the year where you have like a big AI boom, then like the NVIDIA people and other people that like are a bit more like directly tied to AI might benefit first, right? But yeah.
Okay, so we agree on this one as well. What's up next? Let's do some poker.
Over under on Nate and Maria's net tournament winnings for the year, i.e. winnings minus buy-ins. Let's assume this is all live tournaments, right? So we'll ignore any sketchy online stuff that we might or might not do. So it's trackable in theory.
It's hard. Tournaments are so incredibly, it's such a volatile thing, right? And there's so much variance there that it's really, really difficult to have predictions. I mean, I've had years where I've been down a lot and I've had years where I've been up a lot. And, I would like to have a nice optimistic prediction that, and I think you have to, if you're a tournament player, you have to be optimistic. It's kind of like an entrepreneur. You realize that, most people lose money, but in order to do it, you have to believe that you're one of the few that's going to succeed. So I think you kind of have to have that mindset.
I mean, look, in the book, I did some simulations for assuming a very good tournament player, maybe, if we're being honest, probably not too far from where you and I, Maria, but maybe a little bit better in that book than, but in that vicinity, right? And if this player, Penelope, I named her, if she plays 200 bullets, 200 entries, that is, bullets, so we don't want to use violent imagery, but that's what pokers say. When you buy into a tournament, you fire a bullet. She buys into 200 bullets per year in live poker tournaments with a schedule that probably looks a lot like what you are. I might play, Maria, the mix of tournaments. And she loses money about 40 to 45% of the time out of 200 entries. I might play 50 entries this year. You might play more. You might be, I don't know, where are you, 75, 100 or something? Like, we'll probably, the brutal truth is that the odds are that we will have a losing year, or at least I will, with 50 entries. It's hard to win money with 50 entries. Sometimes you win a lot of money, but like probably 60-ish% of the time you wind up with a losing year with that volume, even with an edge. I assume poker tournaments will remain pretty soft, but like, so yeah, probably my over-under is like negative 10,000. I won't speak for you.
All right. I'm gonna be optimistic, but I'll be cautiously optimistic. We'll stay in the 5 figures instead of 6 figures. So I'll say that I predict my net tournament winnings this year to be 45,000 in 2025. I don't know where that number is coming from. It's tempering expectations, but trying to hope for the best. The
thing is, it's actually kind of hard to have the 45,000 plus. It's like you kind of have like, you almost want to say like negative 50,000, or like I think something in 300K, right? Or 5, you know what I mean? That's kind of where the distribution is.
It's true. But, like thinking of this past year, I had a horrific World Series. But I had a really good year at the end. But I had some really big scores. But because my World Series was so bad, I was, down over $100,000. Like that really detracted from the big scores. So at the end I was positive, but it could have very easily, it took a number of big scores to get me to the positive part, right? What's
on the schedule even? Because fucking France, I was going to go to France with you.
I know. It's very sad.
EPT Paris.
It's very sad. EPT Paris, which was supposed to be the first European poker tour stop. PokerStars, my sponsor, I'm an ambassador. We've got lots of disclaimers this show. Unfortunately, because of French regulations, that got canceled. They're trying to reschedule it. I'm really hoping that it will be rescheduled. But right now, the first EPT stop is going to be Monte Carlo. That's going to be in April. I will be there, and you should come, Nate. Monte Carlo is gorgeous. It's right on the water. Absolutely beautiful.
Robbie, you'll get a Monte Carlo?
Yes.
It's probably pretty easy.
Beautiful hotel.
Probably pretty easy to persuade Robbie about Monte.
Beautiful location, great fields. It's a really wonderful event. I think you should come, and we can do some bets for the show and for our listeners, and we can do a podcast episode from Monte Carlo. So let's then move on to AI. Oh, I hate this question. It's so sad. Will a consumer AI model be able to host risky business by the end of 2021? That will be indistinguishable from Meat Space, you and me. And if not, then in what year will that be possible? So what's our P-doom for podcast hosts?
No.
I agree.
And I think it will be a while, if ever. I mean, like, I think personality is a very high fidelity problem that, like, I don't think there's like enough. I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to. Yeah, it's pretty hard. I mean, like, it can kind of like make inferences about people that are very smart, right? But like, because it kind of sees what the essential features are, I think. But like the nuances are very tricky. Like AI is not a very good stylist at writing. I mean, I don't think it's very good at like art. I think people misunderstand art.
No.
This is a rant that like is for another time. But like, I'm not worried about this in the short run here.
I totally agree with you. I don't think it's good at creative things in general, because it's good at regurgitation and at making things formally look like they're like on the surface good formalistically, but I don't think it's able to have creative insight. It's not able to connect ideas or answer questions in ways that haven't been done before, because it doesn't actually think, right? It doesn't actually have a brain. All it's doing is kind of connecting information. And there's also the garbage in, garbage out, as more and more people are saying, don't train AI on our shit, then you see that the AI output actually degenerates pretty quickly. So I don't think they're coming for our jobs yet. And
I'm not sure I agree that it doesn't think.
Well, thinking, so I guess this is a much deeper philosophical discussion, which we can have on another episode of the show because it will take too long. But I think this is a very interesting question about what thinking actually is, and how we should define that. But yeah, let's table that and let's have an episode about that, because I actually think it's really interesting. Nate, there's a question that's specific to you. You have $10,000 and you can bet it on any line in sports this year, but you have to bet right now.
I think the Oklahoma City's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a good bet to win the MVP award, and he was at something like minus 120 before, which implies, what is that, like a 55, 60% chance. I think he's more likely than that to win the award. He is averaging, let me look up his stats. So he's on the best team in the league. He's averaging 31.3 points per game, 5.5 rebounds, 6 assists, almost 2 steals per game, on the best defense in the league, on the best team in the league. Nikola Jokic is the main competition, great player, but the Nuggets kind of suck. I think he is more likely than Vegas assumes to win the MVP. And when I get back in a country where betting is legal, I will be betting, probably not 10K, but betting some of my money on that.
All right. Well, you heard it here first. Nate, does this mean that I should quickly open a sportsbook account and bet that? I've never done any sports betting, by the way.
By the way, minus 120 is 55%. I analyzed it. Okay. So the answer is probably not, right?
Okay.
I mean, because if you get all the bonuses from the sports betting account, then sure, right? A reason why you don't want to make, in theory, these long-term futures bets are fairly profitable, right? But in principle, if I am betting now on January, that ties up my capital for several months, right? And in theory, that takes a little tax on it, where in theory, if that's in the S&P 500 over 4 months, then you make whatever 2.5% or something like that. And so it's a little bit of a tax. It's meaningful, but look, I don't know. I think it's a good bet. I'm going to make that bet when I can.
All right, sounds good.
And we have a question for Maria. What cognitive bias? They're all excited. They went to the cognitive bias New Year's party, and can you imagine different cognitive biases at a party? It's a good skit.
Oh my God, that would be a hilarious skit.
Well, what cognitive bias will win the second annual Daniel Kahneman Memorial Cognitive Bias of the Year Award for 2025?
Right, so we just had the Golden Globe Awards, and now cognitive biases are looking to see which one of them is going to win. I am going to vote for the recency effect as the bias of 2025. And what the recency effect, also known as the availability bias, it means that basically we overvalue what's happening, what just happened, things that are easily available to memory, and kind of forget the rest, right? It's a kind of amnesia where you selectively forget history and what's come before, and you overweight your decisions based on the information and the events that have just happened and that are most easily accessible in your mind. And I think we already started to see that. It's funny, I just made the joke about the Golden Globes, but you already saw that in the Golden Globes where basically no one talked politics, right? It was if you remember what happened after Donald Trump's first election, everyone had it in their speech and there was all this stuff. And this time it was just okay, right? Moving on. We're not gonna talk about it. We don't really care. And so it just goes to show that, our memories are short, and we accept kind of new normals very, very quickly. And I think we'll see a lot of collective forgetting happening in the year 2025.
I was almost going to, I don't know if this is the same or the opposite. I was going to kind of go with the hot hand bias, right? Huh? I think Trump and Republicans are likely to overreach and overestimate their popularity. And like we talked about before, being president is hard. But we'll see.
I think that's also quite likely. That's they're not mutually exclusive. I think both of these things could absolutely be true. Well, let's move on to a multiple choice round about TikTok. Okay, what's going to happen to TikTok? A, banned in the U.S., so Gen Alpha riots. B, sold to a non-Chinese company. C, nothing, remains under Chinese corporate control. Or D, none of the above.
So Trump has asked the Supreme Court to pause the law that could ban TikTok.
Yes.
I'm gonna Maria, why don't you inform us while I cheat by looking at Polymarket?
I think it is going to be sold to a non-Chinese company because so that's option B. I don't think it's going to be banned. I think that's too politically kind of risky, and Donald Trump does not like to do something that's going to hurt his popularity that much. But he, with tariffs, et cetera, it's not like he cares that much about alienating China on some level. So I think that might be the compromise that ends up that ends up winning out. So
So
sold to a non-Chinese
Polymarket
company. All right,
says a
tell me.
43% chance that TikTok is banned in the U.S. before May 2025, and so
Okay.
like if you extrapolate out to any time, that's surprisingly high. But like,
It is.
so we do have this law in place, right, that required it to be sold. So Trump would kind of have to go out of his way to prevent that, right? And I guess you're right? Because like I think Trump concluded that like TikTok was probably helpful to him in the general election, right? Like it seemed to be boosting a lot of the campus protest type of stuff, right? But Trump is also hawkish on China, and I'm going to follow the Polymarket logic and your logic. I'm going to go that like TikTok will be banned in the U.S. with above 50% probability by the end of the year, not by May.
Okay.
I'm trusting the market here at 42% by May, and then yeah.
All right. So we'll see what happens. Does it get banned or does it get sold to a non-Chinese company? Apparently, the loser of this has to post to TikTok. We'll see about that. I'm not committing. Not committing.
I haven't thought of so. If I'm wrong, so if you're wrong, TikTok is banned, so you don't have to post. That seems unfair.
That is unfair. We'll figure out another.
That seems unfair.
That is funny. That is very funny. All right, let's do a lightning round for pop culture. Okay. I don't know if you care about this, but I've been following. Will the Oasis brothers have a fight on stage during their 2025 world tour? Absolutely, they will. Those two guys cannot coexist. I think they've thrown shit at each other every single time they've been on stage, or one of them has stormed off every single time that they've tried to do a reunion tour. If they care about their bottom line, I think the only reason they're having a reunion tour is because both of them wants money. They'll probably try not to do it at the very beginning.
Yeah, it might be a fake fight, but like they'll have I mean, that's a pretty logical bet.
I agree. All right. Kim Kardashian visiting Mar-a-Lago.
Is she taking a stance on Trump?
No, but I think she will, because I think she was married to Kanye for so long, or whatever he's calling himself now. Yeah, So I think there's a good chance that she goes there, and she's also very business savvy. So I think she will do whatever's better for her bottom line, and I think that she'll probably that means cozying up to Trump. So I would say there's a good chance she does it.
I have no opinion, and I'm proud to have no opinion about that.
Sounds good. Best Picture winner. Do you have an opinion?
I don't know. Is the Bob Dylan movie good? The Timothée Chalamet?
I have not seen it yet. So I don't know. I'll put let's put The Brutalist there. Seems like a good one. This is interesting. I'm gonna have to speculate on this. Chance that Nate wears skinny jeans, which are supposedly back. So you know with 100% certainty whether it's yes or no. And I don't. Know.
Where's the threshold for skinny jeans?
I don't know. This is very interesting. And I think it's probably different for men and women, because straight leg jeans for women are not skinny jeans. For women, they really have to be like skin tight. But I feel like for men, there's more of a window for them to be like a little bit less than skin tight. I can't even speculate on this.
No.
No.
I'm turning 47 years old in a week, Maria. I'm not going to be wearing skinny jeans, I don't think.
All right. Well, I'll talk to your partner about this and see. Okay. I think it depends on how the styles
Maybe
go.
Depends on how.
Yeah.
If I win an event at Monte Carlo, then I'll celebrate by buying some.
All right.
Skinny jeans in Europe. Okay.
Let's do it. And finally, do you have a long shot bet for 2025? The thing that probably isn't going to happen, but you'll look like a genius if it does.
Yeah, I actually do have one.
What is it?
Remember the drone thing?
Yeah, the New Jersey drones.
There are reports of all these like drones over New Jersey, and then it kind of went haywire, and then it died out.
Yep.
And people forgot about it.
Yep.
I think there's like a 1 in 3 chance that later reporting reveals that the initial spark of something was something real.
Okay. I think that's a really interesting prediction.
Yeah, because the issue is like, once it became this big viral thing, then like the signal to noise ratio went way down, and people were like just seeing like planes landing at Newark and every old, the moon and shit like that, right? But like, he did have like the initial reports seem more credible, and like also like if you were like, and there are a lot of military bases around there. If you were like, I don't think it's anything like super exciting, right? But like, let's say you were testing out some new type of surveillance drone, right? Mm-hmm. And you're running them back and forth between different military bases. And the U.S. military, by the way, like has lots of drone technology. It doesn't deny that. It's an important part of a defense arsenal these days, right? I think it's like reasonably likely that like they were doing this a little too much, and like some people who were noticing carefully detected a change in the number of drones relative to baseline. And then kind of people got carried away, and they were like, and their denials weren't very, they were like, well, there are lots of things that aren't drones in the sky, which is true, right? And became more and more true as more reports surfaced. But if you were doing that shit, like let's say you have like a little pilot project, or no pun intended, I guess unpiloted project, you probably cut the fuck shit out of that once you get scrutiny on it, right? So yeah. I think there might have been something real there. I think the media was like not very Bayesian in how I thought about the story, right? And yeah. Like the military has drones, and like there have been reports about activity over Air Force bases for years that are fairly credible, reported by outlets like the Wall Street Journal. And I thought people were much too smug about that. And in the Trump era, there's a certain type of story where greater skepticism of the establishment, I think, might be helpful. You know, like that's my weird. I wouldn't take it at even money, but like, let's say 1 in 3 that some credible news outlet publishes a story, probably opaquely sourced, saying like, yeah, there was a little something there. It was no big deal, but like people weren't totally making this up, and there was like a discrete increase for a couple of weeks there in New Jersey.
Yeah, I mean that sounds very plausible to me. When I, living in Vegas near a lot of military bases, you actually see weird shit in the sky all the time, including drone displays. And so I think that there you're just kind of used to it. You're like, there's Nellis, there's all this stuff, and I think that I think your prediction is a pretty solid one. Mine was not nearly as fun or as interesting or as sort of technology oriented. But I'm predicting that 2025 is going to be the year that we see a nuclear power resurgence, that all of the countries that have brought their power plants offline are going to bring them back online, and we're going to see the first new nuclear power plants open for a long time.
What makes you say that, Maria?
AI.
Oh, we need
energy needs.
We need power.
Yep, energy needs are rising, and companies don't know how to meet them. And this will make them much friendlier to nuclear power than they ever have been before. And I'm actually very pro nuclear power. I think this is a good thing. I think that could be one of the good consequences of AI, because I think it's a really nice, clean energy source. So that's my prediction. On that note, Nate, I think you have to get to an airport, right? You're in Tokyo. You're about to fly. And I need to get to a comedy show. I am seeing Alex Edelman, and I'm very, very excited about that. So, yes, we will. We're both heading to exciting destinations. Mine a little bit more exciting than yours.
I'm going to the airport. I'm not even the nice airport in Tokyo. I'm going to Haneda.
All right. Okay. There you have it. Safe travels, and we'll see you next week. Happy 2025, everyone.